Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of That Time in Hip Hop Reviews. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. And if you don't know, and you should know by now, but if you don't know, we've been reviewing the final season of Wu-Tang and American Saga, which is a Hulu series. It's the final season. I've been chatting it up with hip-hop fans about not only their fandom as it relates to the Wu, but the show in particular and this final season. We've talked to a number of different people. Please know that this is available on YouTube if you want to watch it. You know, subscribe, comment, like, all that good stuff. But also it's available in audio form in all podcasting platforms. All you got to do is search using the words Hip Hop Now Podcast and stay subscribed to weekly content from hip hop, about hip hop, 50 years of hip hop that, you know, you probably already enjoy and you can share with people who like it also. My guest today is a very special guest because, again, I've said this before, I wanted this review of this series to represent all Wu fans from everywhere, regardless of how the Wu came into your life, whether they came into your life later on, like my brother, or you were there from day one. We want to tell them stories. We want to talk about it. My guest today, E Major of the podcast, My Type of Hype. What's good, man?
Hey, I'm very good, Vegas, man. I appreciate the invitation. I'm happy to be here, man. I'm excited to talk about this today. But yeah, man, appreciate the invitation, bro. All blessed. Love from the UK, man.
No doubt, no doubt. And you see he came prepared. He got the Wu shirt on. He's ready. He's ready.
Right, ready for it. I'm ready.
Right, no doubt. All right, so those who are watching, obviously, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. But feel free to comment. We respond to comments. We like them. We post them. We pin them, whatever you may. And you do not have to agree with us. We just want to know what you think about this series. E, man, let's start from the very beginning for you as a Wu-Tang Clan fan. When was the first time you heard the Wu and you knew you were a fan? Maybe instantly, maybe it took a little bit. And what were your thoughts when you heard their debut album, Into the 36 Chamber, or Into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers?
Well, for me, like most, it probably would have been Protect Your Neck. It was the first thing I heard. And obviously, straight away, the thing about that song and about Wu-Tang, when it hits you, it just hits you. So it was one of those ones where it just instantly blew my mind. Because I was like, wow, what's this? And yeah, we had posse cuts and everything before. But the thing that stood out to me was just like, you're just getting man after man after man, just tearing every verse, just coming hard. And it sounded it just sounded so rugged and dirty and sort of unclean and like just dusty, and it just caught my attention straight away. Do you know what I'm saying? So obviously we're hearing all this talk about Wu, heard little dribs and drabs. I can't remember exactly what happened after that for me to hear what I heard exactly after that. But I remember picking up the album. I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember saying, listen, I need to buy this when it comes out. And then went and bought the album, and it instantly became a favorite of mine. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah, when I look at like my favorite, my top 10 hip hop albums of all time, that Wu-Tang debut is in there. I love it. It's just an incredible album. Just for, like I always say on my timeline, on our podcast, obviously I'll plug it a bit more later, but My Type of Hype and that, when we're talking about things like that, I always say it's about personal impact. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying it's the greatest hip hop album ever made, but I can very easily say, when it comes to personal impact, it's probably top 5 for me. Like there's not many hip hop albums that have impacted me the way Enter the Wu-Tang did. You see what I'm saying? Blew my mind. And the more I listen to it, I can put it on today. I can put it on tomorrow. I can put it on yesterday. It still sounds just as good. See what I'm saying? And I'm always picking up new things. And yeah, I love it, man. I love talking about Wu. I love talking about the Wu album. It just means so much to me, man. Seriously. Thank God.
Yeah, that's dope, man. going off of what you just said about, because you put some emphasis on the impact it had.
Mm.
Did it just impact you because it was so different what you were accustomed to, or was it, or did you rhyme or MC, or what's the definition of that impact for you?
For me, yeah, I did rap at the time, so I was writing,
Mm.
and like a lot of fans, we try our hand at rapping in it and writing lyrics. So I was doing that at the time,
Right.
and yeah, it was so different. I didn't know. I know some people might have known about RZA's early stuff or Jizz's stuff before Wu. I didn't know anything about Wu before
Oh, wow.
the album dropped. You see what I'm saying? So that was my first introduction to Wu. It was them. I didn't know. I went back and heard the Jizz. I went back and heard Rakim and that stuff
Right.
before that. But when Wu came to me at that time, that was the first I heard about it. So when I say personal impact, I mean it was something that I couldn't put down. So I would have been 12. I'd have been 12
Okay.
years old, right? And I remember it like it was yesterday. In school, this logo here, I was drawing it on everything. You see what I'm saying? You
Wow.
got to remember, we're in the UK, so this ain't even like we're not in Staten Island or in New York or America.
Right. Right.
We're in UK, we're in London. Do you see what I'm saying? So the impact was still so hard. These logos were everywhere in my school. All my school books, I was writing Wu logos. Listen, let me tell you something, man. It got to a point where I was even thinking, oh man, imagine having a group like Wu-Tang, or imagine having like one day in the future where all Wu have children and they have another group and it's called Ju-Tang, meaning Junior Tang. And you know what I mean? It just
Right.
impacts my mind. I was thinking of all the different
Right.
directions going, learning the artist, whose voice was whose
Mm.
style was who. You'd go to school, we're quoting the verses, who had the best verse on this song, who's your favorite Wu member. So when I say impact, I mean it just saturated all of our thinking. Do you know what I mean? It was Wu-Tang
Yeah.
everything, man. One of my first hip hop concerts I ever went to, the very first hip hop concert I went to was Redman in '92. But one of the first ones I went to was a Wu-Tang concert. That might have been like, very, very early days. This would have been like, it was before ODB dropped his solo, and that was the
Okay.
first solo that dropped around it. So it was before that. So he had dropped his single. So it would have been 95, late 94, early 95.
Yeah. Probably early 95.
Yeah. Sorry, not the first solo. Obviously, Meth was, but I mean after that, in
Mhm.
95, I mean. So it would have been after Tikal, but before ODB's album. When I say Wu-Tang concert, only ODB showed up. But it was still a sick concert though, man. It was a good time.
Wow.
But yeah, my early memories of hip hop, man, is saturated with Wu-Tang. So yeah, the impact is massive for me. Massive, massive for me.
That's pretty dope because it's not just an impact as a fan. It kind of sparked creativity in you, because like you said, you started thinking of all these scenarios of their kids and the different voices. And I think that's the dope part about hip hop for those of us who are like really big fans is we get excited
Right.
in a lot of ways when we hear these artists and we love the music. Like really quick, just based off of something you said about like not having prior knowledge of Prince Rakeem and the Genius, for me it was totally different, right? I remembered, "Ooh, We Love You, Rakeem." I did not know that was RZA
Right.
until somebody said it, maybe sometime after, where I was like, "Oh, that is him." But Jizza, I recognized right away because the Genius, he was more successful with his original album, The Genius, than RZA was, and we kind of liked Genius, right? Because we thought he could rhyme, even though he was rhyming about certain joints. It was like he was on that Big Daddy Kane level of, yeah, he kind in LL, I guess he kind of for the ladies, but he kind of got some bars. So it's just amazing to know, and obviously for those watching, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so there was a different in line to the Wu and hip hop for me that may not have touched everybody. But for me, those days came from me watching like Video Music Box, which was local to New York City with Ralph McDaniels. Shout out to Ralph McDaniels. So that's pretty dope. Now, when you heard, not before you saw it, but you heard like, yo, they're gonna do a Wu-Tang Clan television series that's basically autobiographical. What were your thoughts? And then what were your thoughts when you finally saw the show?
Mm. You know what? Funny enough, when I first heard about it, I was excited because I was thinking, I watch interviews and things like that, of course, but watching something like dramatized, I thought this is going to be brilliant, man. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a biopic, innit? Cut down over series. I thought this is going to be brilliant. I don't know why. I think it might have been access. Obviously, being in the UK, certain bits, we didn't get it straight away. So there was some delays, and then I think they might have dropped. Did they drop Of Men and Mikes as well around the same sort of time? You know that
It was around the same time.
Yeah, so I watched that. I had that, and I just never really got round to the American Saga. Believe it or not, I never started watching it until season 2 was about to finish. Yeah, not 100% sure why, but never really got around to watching it until like near the end of season 2. So when I did start watching it, obviously just binged it all, watched it all, and I liked it straight away, man. I was a couple of the characters to keep it 100% real. A couple of the characters I found really annoying, to be honest. Like the actors, I mean, ODB doing one. The thing is, though, he does a great job. He does a brilliant job doing ODB, but ODB is the kind of guy that you just can't really act like him. Do you know what I mean? So the actor's a bit annoying at times, but he done a brilliant job. You see what I'm saying? So a few little finicky things about the characters, but the show on a whole is really good. I love it. I was just a bit disappointed when I watched some interviews after, and then they would say that this weren't factual, or that's not how it happened, or because when I'm watching it with, like you said earlier, I'm a fan. You see what I'm saying? I'm not just watching it as a program. I'm watching it because I want to learn as well. I want to be like, so this is what was going on behind the scenes when this was happening. This is what was happening. So when I hear certain things like that weren't the case, this weren't really, it's a bit disappointing, because then the way I think, I'm like, well, what's real, what's not? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I kind of started watching it just as something dramatized, not watching it for factual things, which took a little bit away from it, but I love it, and I think this season's brilliant.
Yeah, I think that was the thing, right? And maybe that was the thinking, to release that documentary so close to the show, just to say, I know you guys who are fans want to hear the real story, and we want the people who don't know about us to know the real story. So we're going to put this out as a contrast to what could mostly be or loosely be fictional in certain parts. So that way, you don't feel like, oh, I'm not going to watch the show because that's not real. But I feel you, man. It's one of those things where there were moments, because I liked the way it looked and played out, like Raekwon shooting up Ghost's house.
Yeah, exactly.
That you don't wish that was real, but it was compelling, to
it adds to the whole story,
right. And then seeing them come together, and you said, so season 3, you digging it so far?
I love it, man. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I weren't a fan of the ODB one, his story. It's just probably just a bit too, I don't know. I weren't a fan of that one. Jizz's one, for me, I think has been the best episode so far. I love this season. I think it's a good season, because obviously with season 1, we're seeing how it's all happening. We're seeing them come together, which is good. We're seeing the birth of Wu. Season 2, they're coming into themselves a little bit. It feels like Casino for me, like the movie Casino. I love Casino because you see the whole, you know what I mean? You see the whole rise, you see the fall. I'm not saying that we were falling, but you know what I'm saying? You're seeing the birth, you're seeing them climb. And in season 3, they're at their heights, aren't they? You know what I mean? They got the shop open now. They're touring, they're popular. You know what I mean? It's all coming together. They got the mansion, and you're seeing what's happening in the background. So I think this has been a good season, man. I've enjoyed it a lot.
That's dope, man. That's dope to hear. And I mean, I know there are a lot of people who like this show. There's some people who were turned off, ahead of time, or turned off by some of the character portrayals. But it's a television show, and there's a lot there that's good enough for us fans who kind of want a little bit of that nostalgia to be there. I think we get a lot of that.
Exactly.
And I think in a lot of ways it's going to make people who aren't fans who are watching this curious
Mm-hmm.
about the Wu's music, the real stories, like you said. Um, and it's just a dope thing to have, especially considering 50 years of hip hop and
I love it.
celebrating the old school, in that
Mm,
regard.
I
All
agree.
right, well, we're going to get into it right now. We're going to review episode 9, which was entitled After the Smoke Clears. This is the penultimate episode. Now,
Mm,
if you're like, what you mean pins and ultimate pins, like karate and shit? No, we're talking about the episode before the final episode. And just real quick, let me nerd out real quick, y'all. I know with Game of Thrones, every season that was the best episode, the penultimate episode, because it was always the biggest thing was going to happen to shift things in a dramatic way. And I feel that somewhat happened here. I feel like some of that was here, and we're going to get into it and talk about it. But overall, this episode, well, first of all, I think you know by now, those who are watching or listening, we're going to spoil the shit. It's a review.
mhm.
So don't
Exactly.
get mad.
Mm,
Right. But the overall theme for this show was about leaving the streets behind in one way or another, right? It's
mm,
like they've been successful. They're the Wu. They're no longer Dennis and Bobby. They're Ghostface and RZA.
mm,
And there are elements of their past that's popping up. And they're at a crossroads. Am I still that guy from back then in the project season 1? Or
mhm.
am I this new guy that's that everyone knows and is successful and now a celebrity and a businessman in some regards? And it's pretty dope to see them carry that as a theme in this episode. So let me just ask you in general, E,
Mhm.
what you think about this episode?
I really liked it, man. I mean, like I said, the Jizzes one is my favorite episode so far. So
Mm,
for me, it would be you'd be really hard pressed to follow that. Do you see what I'm saying?
right.
Um, but I think it was a good episode because obviously, do you know what I mean? I'm a huge fan of Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's what I mean about the impact of Wu. If you're looking at my 10 favorite hip hop albums of all time, 3 of them are out of Wu-Tang. If you're looking at my second favorite producer of all time, it's RZA. You know what I mean? If you're looking at
Mm.
my third favorite MC of all time, it's Ghostface. So that's what I
Oh,
mean. Wu-Tang of my favorite hip hop group of all time is Wu-Tang. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
they've impacted me so much. So these, like we were saying, these shows are so good for the fans as well because as I was watching it, I'm watching the episode and I'm loving it. But I'm looking at little things, bro. I'm getting gassed. I'm getting excited because I'm looking at the clothes that Raekwon's wearing, the things that Ghostface has got on. And bro, I remember posters that I had in my room where they had those
Mm.
clothes on, or
Right,
interviews,
right.
magazine shoots where they've got those clothes on. So for me, it's just a brilliant experience, man. But I thought it was a good episode.
Mm.
Obviously, I love Iron Man, so it was good to hear the backstory as well. So yeah, I like the episode. I did. I like the episode, man.
Yeah, that's another thing for those listening and watching or haven't even watched the show. This is the perfect way to do this kind of show.
Hmm.
None of it's blatant, but it's there, right?
Right. Exactly.
There are little things that we could point to in a
Hmm.
dialogue scene about going to get groceries and say,
Right.
"Yo, that's the poster or that's the joint he had on."
Exactly.
It took me a minute to look at Raekwon chain and like, yo,
Yeah.
that's the he had on, on Cuban links.
Yeah.
Which stood out when you looked at the back of the album when he's cooking at the stove with no shirt and he got the
Exactly.
chain on with the
Mm.
tarantula. So yeah, man, it's pretty dope to see the Easter eggs. Now let's get into some of the parts of the show or some of the threads that were going on. One in particular, their mama's back, meaning Bobby, Devon, Cherie. Their mama's back. She came to visit. We think she came to visit because she didn't see them in a while. Plus, she was really only in one episode, and that's the old dirty episode. And everybody done said they didn't like the shit, so probably
Yeah.
forgot she was in it.
Right.
But she's back, to check on her kids. But apparently, And I guess this, I don't know if that was her husband. I can't remember anymore. Like Bo Kim Woodbine's character was
Yeah,
that
I
her
don't know
husband?
if they were married. I don't think they were married, but the boy, the
Right.
young kid, was his
Kind of
son.
like a boyfriend. Oh,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
youngest son was his son.
Mm,
Well, basically, he's abusive towards
mm,
her. What did you think about them adding this storyline, especially this so late into the game, especially
mm,
when you feel like it's connected to the kid's response when he came back around in previous seasons?
mhm. You know what? On a whole nother level, I was disappointed because usually when you watch these kind of programs, like you get the guy, he's making all these promises and then they don't come to pass. You know what I mean? They
Right.
don't happen. You know, for some reason, it just don't happen. He's usually a waste man, or he disappears, or something like that. So when he, if I remember rightly, I think it was season one, weren't it? When he actually said, you know, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and he was able to move them away, and he got the job and everything like that. I was happy for them. I'm like, oh, it's a good sort of. You don't usually see that kind of thing play out. So
Right.
to see this flip now that he's being abusive and all that, it was almost a bit like, oh man. Obviously, if it's factual, it's factual. You can't change facts,
Right.
but it felt a bit like disappointing for
Mhm.
her. You know what I mean? It's good to see what her sons have accomplished, but it's disappointing that now she's having to come back, having to call police on him and being abused and everything. So, but it's always good to bring these kind of things into the story because it, you know, it just brings more awareness in it. Do you know what I'm saying? So for those
Right.
kind of scenarios, but so it was a sad situation. It was a
Yeah.
sad situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does
I
feel very
agree.
good to bring it in though, because when you think about it, like you said, if next week's the last one, we're not really
Hmm.
going to get any more of that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it is
Right.
kind of late to bring it in, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It's probably something that they wanted to definitely touch on.
Mm,
And I think what they wanted to do with it still applied to these characters we've been following, in saying that, here's Bobby and Devon, successful, probably far from what they used to be. If you think back, what they used to do,
mm,
and almost feeling like they have to step back into that lane.
mm,
I think what I like most about it is her stopping them, saying, no, you're
mm.
here now.
Yeah,
We're not going to bring you down here and have everything crumble as a result.
true.
I could take care of myself. I figured it out. And I thought it was extra dope just to see, like, hey, the Wu Mansion is yours, or this house we're going to buy you is yours. Uh, kind of making up for what you just said, what he promised, which eventually
True.
turned sour. They
Mm,
promised something that will never turn sour,
true.
which was pretty dope for them to highlight, right? Because this whole thing started out as a human story and not just rappers with rap names and karate and stuff like that, but
Mm,
people,
exactly.
Um, so, like you said, man, it was good to have it there, but you know, the season, the show, the series is almost over.
Mm,
Felt kind of like, oh, they must have wanted to use this in some kind of way. Um, Now, one thing that you just mentioned that was pretty dope is this wasn't another one of the allegorical episodes where they kind of create a film or some kind of metaphor for the making of Iron Man. This was more so the making of Iron Man.
mm.
What did you think about the peaks at the process we did get, and obviously Ghostface getting into a shootout with the Delphonics in the car?
I mean, for me, it's interesting because you're thinking, unless you heard that kind of story before, which I know a lot of people did know about that story before, it's almost unbelievable. But then when you think to yourself, if that's going to be anyone out of the crew, it's going to be Ghostface. That's going to happen too.
Right, right.
It's humorous. So it was good to bring a bit of reality to the story because when you hear that kind of story, when you hear Ghost talking about it on Drink Chat, say when he was talking about it, he was
Hmm.
talking about it very comically. He's laughing about it, and we're laughing, and we hear about it. But that brought a bit of the seriousness to it. When you really realizing what's happening, he's got his favorite group of all time. That there was a statement he made that blew my mind when he said, "I used to listen to them when I was scared, and now they're scared of me." You see what I'm saying?
Mm, right, right.
He didn't say it like he was like. glad about that. He was saying it because he was disappointed in himself. And I liked that because it's true, because you think, you know what? Here's his favorite group of all time. He's done whatever he's able to do, got them on their album, and then life, the street life or whatever he's involved in before, almost jeopardized that. Because they could have left the studio and said, listen, we're not doing this. We don't want to be around all that kind of
right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So it's a good, there's a lesson to be learnt there, isn't it? That there's a time, like his sister was saying, like the rest of the crew was saying, his girl was saying, there's a time and a place, you know what I'm saying? And you need to be able to separate certain things at certain times and say, I need to leave that alone now. Right. And he's very hot-headed. It didn't even have to go that way. We don't even know what was happening. When you're going by the show, the car pulled up. We don't even know what was happening. For all we know, it could have been a fan. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
He pulled out and started unloading. We don't even know what the car wanted, if I remember rightly. It just kind of pulled out in front and he got trigger happy in it. But it was interesting. I'm probably going to blow people's minds when I say this, but it's one of my least favorite tracks off the album, to be honest with you. Right. So,
well, which track is this?
The track with the Delphonics.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's one of my least favorite tracks off the album. I enjoyed the story, but I probably would have liked a bit more attention to be on maybe Motherless Child. Sorry, not Motherless Child. All That I Got Is You. Sorry. Do you know what I'm saying?
All I Got Is You. Yeah.
So, that would have been interesting, but I guess that's been covered over some of the series when you're looking at his brother's disabilities and different things. But yeah, it was interesting. It was very good to have that in the episode and get the backstory about it. Because we didn't know how the Delphonics would have responded after the shootout, but now we know they were ready to leave. You know what I mean? So,
I think that's dope that you said that, because now when I think about it, well, first of all, the first time I learned about it was when he talked about it on Drink Champs, and he made it seem as if they weren't as afraid, like they were like street shit.
Exactly.
But on the show, they were scared to death, like, yo, this dude is crazy. But I think that's a dope alternative that you said, right? Because for one, you got Mary on that, and then two, we know his family situation intimately because of the previous seasons. So I could just envision him being in the booth and having Mary in the booth singing, like a montage, and maybe even have his two little brothers in the studio listening to him talking about that. That could have been really impactful. And the other thing I walked away with this, just like you said, they played Ghost up to be extremely paranoid.
Yeah.
And I wonder when the real Ghost was telling that story on Drink Champs was what he thought was happening from a paranoid perspective versus what was really happening. What maybe the show did a reverse, right? Where, RZA, maybe the Delphonics told RZA, like, yo, we was scared to death. Like, we thought we were going to die. And Ghost sees it as like, nah, they were good. And it's like, nah, man.
That's true.
You were shooting at them. And yeah, when he told the story on Drink Champs, he also made it seem as if like he ran into some dudes from the past and had a shootout. Whereas, they play it up like he don't know who that is. He's just watching them. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I agree with you, man. Like, I like the fact that we got a little bit about how some of the songs came together, especially all the because that song really connected with me. Not that I lived like that, but the same thing that Ghost said about All That I Got Is You is, you got to grow, and I felt growth. Like I was closer to him as an artist because I didn't know all of this about him and his upbringing. And it's like, damn, you start to think about where he is now, where he was, and Mary J really know how to make you feel that hook.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was pretty dope to see that play out. Now, what did you think about Power and the Wu Wear store? He got a nice Macy's storefront with the Wu posters and Wu Wears and Macy's. And it's a dope moment for him, but now he's getting an offer to sell it, and the benefit of selling it, for those who don't know, is the fact that he doesn't have to run all of it. He's going to eat off of it. It's still his creation, still his brainchild, but another owner can expand the business, which expands the brand of the Wu in general.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think he should have sold it or kept it or what?
See, it's funny because it's an interesting question, because one side of me thought he should have, because I'm thinking, you know what? He's literally going to be sitting down, having to do no work, and he's always going to be getting that money coming in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for a lot of us, we probably say, sell it. Do you know what I mean? You create something. I was thinking of probably Jay-Z and a few of his. Has he sold Tidal? Might be Tidal or Spades or whatever. Yeah, he did. So you think of Dre, Beats by Dre. You think people, they build something up, sell it for a silly amount of money, do the next thing, but yet they're still getting money in. So on that side of thing, I was thinking, man, sell it. But I tell you what, it weren't until Raekwon said, listen, here's the money. Let's keep it in the family. At that point, I thought, you know what? That's the smarter thing to do. Because usually if someone is offering you a lot of money for something, yeah, especially people from outside of our culture, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
If they're offering you a lot of money for something, it usually means it's worth double that or triple that. You know what I'm saying? So it's probably smarter to keep it in the family, keep it how you want it to be, run it how you want to run it, because there'll be nothing worse than selling something on and then hating the direction it's going in, but having no say anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? So ultimately, if Raekwon or he couldn't put that money, or Power couldn't get that money, then I don't think it would have been the end of the world if he sold it. But ultimately, it probably was the best thing to use Wu money and keep it in the family. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To quote Wu. So yeah, I think he done the right thing, keeping it in. It's a good look either way.
Right. I agree. And I think what this whole storyline or this thread was doing was, again, harkening back to their street times. Ray and Power were businessmen in the streets.
Right.
And this was them doing what they did on the streets back then. And it was more so about, do you, again, the running theme, do you sacrifice your success and your creativity and your originality for this thing, whether it be in the street or to the next level? It's more of a where are we going next type of thread for everybody. And it's pretty dope for them to point those things out and then show us each character making different decisions, right? Yeah. When it came to Devon and RZA, their mama had to stop them because they were trying to make it happen. When it came to Ghost, him paying attention, him being self-aware of what he did in his surroundings made him more reflective, and obviously having a good woman by his side to give him good advice.
Exactly.
And the same thing with Power, right? He was mulling that joint over. Ray's in the car. He just like, yo, what do you think? I trust you from way back. So yeah, I love the fact that they did all of these little things, because I think it's making for a really, really good series that we could probably say, well, why not do more hip hop series?
Exactly.
Right? Like this might be the bar, for those series. Now the other thing that was probably, I know for me, the times when I stood up, like, I wanted to absorb whatever was happening. RZA looking for a new sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it can't be the shit we already talked about. What we loved. Talking about the impact. It sounded dirty. Blah blah blah. Every guest on here has talked about the same things as it relates to RZA and what he brought to the game. And now he's looking for a new sound.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, why would you want to do that? What did you think about how that played out in this episode? And obviously how it ended with Assassination Day. What did you think about that? Like, even just knowing that RZA's looking for a new sound and what you know now, being in the future, basically.
Well, it blew my mind, to be honest with you, because, like I said, I was like, well, when Iron Man dropped, I would have been 15, 16. Yeah, about 15. And we ain't dissecting music like that at that age. You see what I'm saying? It drops, you
Right.
like it or you don't. You're not dissecting it like that. So it's only as you kind of get older and you start revisiting things, you start to maybe notice the musical difference. I didn't notice the musical difference at first. You see what I'm saying? If
Right.
that makes sense. Wu drops to Cows, very similar to Wu in its grittiness sound. But you know, we go on, we go on. But then '95 was obviously RZA's probably standout year for me, and for most probably. But it's only when I was kind of watching that episode and thinking about it now, even as we're talking, I'm like, yeah, there's a huge musical shift from the previous works to Iron Man. You see what I'm saying? Because Iron Man's very soulful. Not saying he never done anything like that before, but very soulful. That the samples he's using, the sound, just everything. It feels very different to Cuban Links, very different to Liquid Swords,
Right.
which he would have probably been working on. There would have been some crossover, we know, with the Flood and all of that stuff, but he definitely went into that vein of just finding something different. And I think it works, and I loved it. Iron Man's my favorite Ghostface album. I know apparently Ghostface don't like it. Most people probably like Supreme Clientele more, but I love Iron Man. I love the sound of it. Just even today, just you know, for this episode here, I was running it again for the millionth
Right.
time, just listening to it again. Just because I love this album. So yeah, I like that they put a lot of emphasis on RZA looking for a new sound, because if you remember rightly in last week's Liquid Swords episode,
Mm-hmm.
he was also on that mountain, kind of tuning in, looking for.
Right.
I think it was like alluding to the fact that he's looking for a new sound, and we know Liquid Swords would have been the last solo before Iron Man. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I like all of that. The transition is good. Then obviously what he goes into Wu-Tang Forever with, which I'm a huge fan of. So yeah, I like the fact that they highlighted it, and it brings more attention to RZA's excellence in my mind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I love these episodes where, because it's representative of most producers, just like a lot of the MC stuff is representative of most MCs, right? It's you're in here with it, and it's not just a hot or whack thing. It's a purpose thing when you're creating, right? Like, well, what am I doing? Especially when you've already created. It's like, you know, what's next? Why is this better? Is it the same? You know, and for RZA to feel that way, and I liked like him going to these spots where music heads are, right? Like, musicians are in there buying instruments and knowing he's the RZA, and the little debate about sampling and being an actual musician, right? To the point where you end the episode and it's like, okay, well, RZA was talking, he was flaunting his success as a reason as to why he should be respected as a musician, but you end the episode with him learning how to play an instrument, you know. And honestly, I did not see this coming, because when I saw the equipment at first, I was like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, I didn't know. I've seen it before, but I couldn't remember. And then I started thinking, like, well, what song? You know, like, what song did he use that for? So when he was playing around with the joint, I could kind of hear something, but I still wasn't sure until they started playing Assassination Day, and my head was like, okay,
sick tune,
like,
love that song.
look, I told my wife, I was like, I don't know, man. I think I got to start moving RZA. Like I like Primo, but goddamn, RZA is like,
they're my 1 and 2, man. They're my 1 and 2. You know what? If RZA done nothing else after '97 for me, he'd still be my number 2. You see what I'm saying? Because I think that prime, from that run from Wu all like through to what he's done, even the work outside of the Wu and all that stuff, that's an incredible, that's insane. And what we're thinking about as well, I mean, obviously other Wu producers maybe have done, I think RZA done every track on Iron Man bar one, I think, which is Fish, I think. No, Fish or Black Jesus. Fish, I think it is.
yeah,
RZA produced all of these albums with these sounds for those specific MCs. You see what I'm saying? The beats that he made for ODB would not have worked for a Ghostface album. You know, the beats he
Right.
made for Iron Man wouldn't have worked for a Jizza album. You see what I'm saying? RZA has made all of these beats, all of these albums, remade a lot of them as well. Like,
Right.
listen, RZA's the man. Trust me,
Yeah,
for
you
real.
know what it is? I'm glad you said that. It's like him knowing their personalities intimately
Mm,
and then knowing their rhyming style and who they are. He's like a tailor. Like he
exactly.
tailored those albums to match who they were. It wasn't like, oh, it's RZA and this, Meth got these beats and Ray got these beats. It was like, no, this is a producer who's in sync with the vision of the artist and what they
Mm-hmm.
represent, and he's going to capture that. And like you said, man, like just all of it was just perfect, man. And that really like I smiled at the end of the episode with that because I was like, yeah, like this is
Mm,
the type of shit, this is the reason why I'm watching, Um,
exactly.
so again, this is a very dope episode, the penultimate episode before the final episode, which I've been telling y'all since we started reviewing these joints. It's going to be Wu-Tang Forever because it just makes
Hmm.
sense as a
Of course.
storyline. The next episode is entitled Triumph, and
Hmm.
here's the description. RZA pushes his musicianship to new heights as he creates Wu-Tang Forever with a studio orchestra, but the
Mm.
recording process strains the clan as tensions boil over during the biggest tour yet. RZA is concerned about Wu-Tang's future and legacy. What you
Mm.
think about that, man? What's the predictions?
It's going to be good, man. Because if we're thinking about the documentary we watched, they done that big tour in '97, and then they left early, didn't they? For something like that. I can't remember what it was. They
Yeah.
was doing a tour with, what was it, a rock band? Um,
Yeah, it was they had two different tours, and
mm,
one was the with the rock band. I know who you talk about. I
yeah,
just can't remember the band. That probably was
yeah,
the bigger.
yeah. And then I think they sort of went to do something for Puffy. Was it? Either way, that
Right.
all led to the whole blackballing of New York and sound and everything like that. So it's
Yeah,
going to be an important episode, man. And you know what? I'll say before Twitter, I thought everyone loved Wu-Tang Forever. I've never met anyone that did like Wu-Tang Forever, but I seem to meet so many people now that didn't really like Wu-Tang Forever. I love Wu-Tang Forever.
right,
Yeah, it's floated. Don't get me wrong, there's probably half a dozen tracks I could do without.
right,
But from the moment you put that disc one in and that intro's gone and then Reunited listen, that is a
right.
brilliant album for me, man. It's just like, nah, the sound. And I know a lot of people like the singles are, we don't really do the singles. To this day, Triumph is still one of my favorite Wu-Tang songs of all time. It's incredible, man. The beat's insane, classic verses, everyone's on there. The
Right.
video's just ridiculous. So yeah, if this episode is focused, well, we know it is. So this episode to be focused around Wu-Tang Forever, I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good. I want a season 4 though, man. I wouldn't mind a season 4 at all, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I've seen people trying to get a petition. I wonder. I think it's probably like if I was working with Hulu or with
Mm,
the production, I probably would agree only because of the things that happen afterwards.
right.
And I think it matches what you would want at the end, right? Triumph, Wu-Tang Forever, because a lot of different things happen after this that would just make it sad, and you
Yeah,
would
that's
have
probably what
to.
I'm trying to avoid. Mm,
Yeah, you would want to, because the albums after that they'll kind of hit or miss and blah blah blah. But to your point, just to talk about '97 and Wu-Tang Forever in particular, I remember when that dropped, and honestly, for me, I didn't feel like it was whack. I feel like it's a classic, to be honest.
same.
Especially today. Back then, I didn't think that, but I felt like yeah, there's a couple songs here and there they could have did without. But I think it was difficult for me personally because Biggie had just died a couple months before,
Mm,
and Life After Death was in super rotation,
mm,
not just because I liked it, but because Big was gone.
mm.
And here was the Wu, and the sound was a little different,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like Don't get me wrong, Triumph had me right back in pocket as soon as I heard it. Like, oh shit, the Wu back.
Exactly.
And MGM is yours, like
Oh, the
all in
gods,
pocket. Right,
eaters. Gee.
right. It was just I think it was a polarizing album, kind of
Mm,
like Life After Death,
mm,
right? Of fans of what was and those that were on board with RZA's new sound and this new version of the clan, so to speak.
mm.
But we'll see, man. I think we'll be satisfied by the end because I think they covered a lot of ground, and I probably know the least about the process for Wu-Tang Forever.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Good point.
you
Same.
know,
Mm,
so
good point.
we'll see, man. Man, tell them real quick about. Well,
Mm,
first of all, those who are watching, what did you feel about the episode? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Are
mhm.
you excited for the final episode of the series, Triumph? Also, leave your comments in the comment section below. We'll respond. We'll check it out, all that good stuff. So, man, tell us about your podcast, My Type of Hype. What's that all about?
Yeah, man. So myself and Slack on both sides, we come together and we run a weekly podcast called My Type of Hype. And all it is, man, we're just celebrating hip hop, man. We're chopping it up, we're having discussions. Basically, we focus on three main things on the podcast, and that's interviews, where we just look at up and coming artists or established artists, interviewing them to get a bit of exposure for them. We look at reviews where we review albums, just like you've done today with Wu-Tang, but we'll do it with albums.
Mm,
And then just discussions, man. We just have our hip hop discussions. What we really wanted to focus on for the podcast is that people of the culture, people that love hip hop, we always talking hip hop. You know what I mean? Whether it's a debate or just whatever it is, we're talking hip hop. So all we wanted was just a platform where we can do exactly that. So
right.
nothing scripted. We'll just hit each other up and say, "Oh, why don't we look at this for a topic?" We may look at a couple things that we cover, but after that, apart from that, man, we're just talking about this thing that we love, man. So My
Mm,
Type of Hype. You may remember us as Man Knows Hip Hop. We was running that for about a year, but we kind of stopped that and started our own thing. I won't belabor you at the details, but yeah, we started our own thing. Had a massive break unintentionally. It was only meant to be about 2 months. It turned into about 5 almost. So stick with us. We're back now as of 2 weeks ago. We're just coming back on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, My Type of Hype podcast on all of them. So yeah, man, hit us up, man. It's all for the culture, man. Celebrating hip hop.
that's what's up, man. And where can they follow you?
I'm on Twitter as well, so Eastern Major on Twitter, and My Type of Hype all on Twitter there. I'm personally not on Instagram, just My Type of Hype is on Instagram, so Twitter's the main place, man. So yeah, follow me on there. Always having our debates and our talks about music, man. I love it on there. Yeah, man. Shout out to you, Vegas, man. We've been following each other and chopping it up for a good few years now, so I really appreciate just being on air today as well, man, and just all you're doing for the culture, man. I see your podcast, your channels, and everything, man. So yeah, nothing but
Thanks.
love, man.
Thanks, man. This is what it's all about, man. It's a beautiful thing to have the technology to not only connect in these
Mm,
ways with like-minded fans of hip hop, but also to share it with other fans.
agreed.
Our opinions, which may be different, may be the same. There's somebody out there who may watch your program or watch mine's, and they thought they were the only person in a town that thought that. That
Mm,
one thing, and they meet somebody and they're like, oh, out here where I live, nobody listens to boom bap or nobody, you know what I mean? So I think it's pretty dope for that, man. And shout out to you, and y'all definitely go follow and subscribe to My Type of Hype podcast. Check it out. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Vegas World INC. And again, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, review on podcasting platforms, and most importantly, share it with people enjoy this kind of content. On behalf of the homie E, we got one more episode to review, so you already know what it is, man. We are not critics, we're fans. Peace.